today is SQL versus NoSQL and moving data from MongoDB to Azure Data Lake by using Azure Data Factory. What a great session. I hope you guys enjoy. Who am I? I'm Jane Joseph, currently working as a data engineer. I've been in IT for over 18 years, and I'm currently located in New Jersey and originally from Haiti. And I'm your host for today. So what are the rules? You guys are free to comment. There must be no offensive comment. And then also I have your videos turned off. However, I also have your microphone turned off, but if you guys want to ask a question, raise it and I will unmute yourself, or at the end of the session, I'm gonna unmute everyone. So this way you guys can ask questions. Okay, you guys are free to follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook at Cloud Data Driven hash, right? And then also you are free to follow us on Eventbrite, YouTube, Meetup, Twitter. Let's get connected. We also have Diponkar Paul today as our speaker, right? He is currently working as a senior data engineer. He's a speaker. He's also leading Toronto Pass Group. It's so sad to hear her pass, cease. But anyway, we as a community builders, we will still stick together and serve our communities. Right, and then if you guys want to present any sessions, you are free to do that. And then also, not only that, we have a tons of presentation lined up. Then our next presentation is Carlos Lopez, which will, work us through, database development with WSL2, especially for DBA who does not have strong experience on Linux. I would highly suggest you to, get involved. And if you guys want to understand more, that would be great. And then John Miner in March 25th will present how to transitioning your SQL scale to Spark SQL, which is very high demand now, especially if you guys are using Azure Synapse. That would be great. I would highly suggest you to do that. And also, as I mentioned, you are free to submit your sessions. If you want to talk or present a sessions, please email me at jjoseph@bigdatadriven.org, and I'll be happy to work with you and schedule you up there. With that said, Diponkar, the floor is all yours. Feel free to share your screen, and if you have any questions, let me know and introduce yourself. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Hope you're able to see my screen, right, Jim?
Yes, I can see your screen. And just for your information, Diponkar, it is an honor to have you here. Thank you in advance for your presentations.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, the title says what you're gonna learn today all together. So you can ask any question in the middle of the session, or in the end of the session if you want to know more, or if you have any question, please feel free to comments or ask the question. So before I start, it's a bit about me. I'm always community focused from my student life till now. I always work for the community. Right now, I'm leading Toronto data professional community. As Jane mentioned, I was to run as a lead as a Toronto Pass Group. Now, since past has come, so we are actually having the meetup group, and the result we have session every month. And I've been working as a data engineer for a long time, it's around 12 years. So whatever it says, a data engineer, BI developer, and data warehouse developer, it's the same things. And I got a diverse background, which I really, I'm blessed to have that. I have been working in different countries. I've been living in different countries, including Denmark, Sweden, UK. Now I recently actually moved to North America. Originally I'm from Bangladesh, but I also got like Danish citizenship since I've been living there. Almost my career actually is in Denmark, and I do blog. I know all the new topics or recent topics, especially related to SQL Server and Azure Data Factory. And I'm a father of 5-year-old boy and husband of a beautiful wife. And you can, reach me through the Twitter, my blog. You can follow. Let's jump into what we're going to cover today. One thing though, I think my video is on, so my screen is on the right side and the left side is the other slide. So I maybe look here and there. So just to let you know. So what you're going to cover is we're going to cover. First, you're going to talk about or refresh our memory with the traditional SQL, since we're going to talk about NoSQL. So just before NoSQL, we're going to talk a bit about traditional SQL. Then you're going to go, our MongoDB or NoSQL. Then we'll have the demo we just have this, a few syntax to create some tables and query in NoSQL, MongoDB. And then you're going to compare, okay, what's the difference between those? And then since we'll have already created the table in MongoDB, we're going to move that and put into the Azure Data Lake by using Azure Data Factory. And we'll see that in demo in action. Okay, I'm sure you know this small piece of code, how it works. It's Sql Syntax, where you going to product table and selecting those ID, product, and price column, and you're specifically looking for bike as a product category. And like it has to, if there is a SQL syntax, it has to be there a select statement. You say, okay, it's from the table, and then you put the hard condition. That is how it's a general SQL when you do the select statement. And if like SQL has a DDL and DML. It's like DDL is a data definition language and DML is data manipulation language. DDL is like when you create a table, you define the schema, so sort of things that's called DDL. But say when you do insert, update, or delete, or join, those are part of the DML. The very first things when you work with SQL, that is your table structure, right? It has to have well-defined schema, means you create a table and you said, okay, the table name is that, and then all the columns or the attributes you have to tell that, okay, my column is a name, then I have the column type is invoker. And I also say it's not what the length cannot be exceed than 100. And if the column is null or not, you also define that. It could be an integer, it could be money, whatever. So you actually define that your table. So it's a well-defined schema. That's the first thing in your SQL. The second thing when it's coming is relationship, right? So think about whenever you work in a general SQL database, you have to have the relationship. Means, give an example here: customer name, email, could be phone number, whatever, customer details in one table, and then you can have the product information in other table. So the bike information is here, there you can see clearly. But even these two tables really doesn't give us any kind of valuable information together, right? So we need to have kind of base table. So now you actually can translate something. So if we use these three tables, so we come to race table, we say, okay, this is my customer ID. We go to that customer table, whereas the ID is 2, and I see Anderson Lou is the customer, and he have you got the product ID here. So is the product ID is city by, and the price is 1,000. So now you can translate that. Okay, Anderson bought a city bike which costs $1,000. So now you actually can um, make like a meaningful information. So you have the relationship, or on the other hand, we also call a normalization. Hope you already know about this. Generally when you design the database, it has to follow normalization rules. And let's talk about the type of relationship we have in SQL. So you have one-to-one relationship. In this example, for example, in one school, you only have the one head teacher, and one-to-many is think about it, school have many teachers. And when it's like come to many-to-many relationships, so then it's like student have many lessons or can take many lessons. Say one student can take physics, chemistry, math. In the same way, the same physics can be taken by many students, and chemistry can be taken by many students. So that's like many-to-many relation. Now we go and look into NoSQL a bit. Before jumping into the details like NoSQL, we know some all the vendor, or most of our vendor when you work with SQL, that it has a vendor MS SQL like Microsoft SQL, Teradata, Oracle, MySQL, many vendor we know. But when it comes to NoSQL, then you have MongoDB, which is one of the most popular one. Then you also got Cosmos DB from Microsoft. Amazon have their NoSQL, Oracle got it, also Google Bigtable. So they have all different tools from different vendors. Well, even when it come to, I remember like when I started looking into NoSQL, I thought, okay, what's the meaning of NoSQL? Is it not SQL? Well, actually, it's opposite, right? It's called not only SQL. So it means whatever your general SQL can deliver, it can deliver that and more than that. So it's not one SQL; it's more than that. And today we're gonna actually see the demo, whatever is through the MongoDB, though we know there are many vendor have their NoSQL databases, but we're gonna talk particularly about this MongoDB. MongoDB actually got popular in 2015 when it came to Gartner Magic Quadrant. I mean, it was there before, but even at that time, think about it was using mostly with developing your business application, then database as a MongoDB is behind the scene as a backend database. But nowadays, it's not only MongoDB has been used to build your application, database application. Rather, it's also using in the big data landscape, because you got IoT devices, all this data coming. So the how you're gonna know more why actually NoSQL database is popular. But it is really getting popular day by day. Okay, now we have a bit different in naming convention when it's come to name, how we name it. So database, it doesn't change. We call the database in general SQL is the same way. When it's come to NoSQL, we still call the database. But whatever we call as a table in the general SQL, we call that in NoSQL collection. So table become collection, and the records in the table, those we call as a document. So when you're gonna do that in the demo, you'll see there's something called collection and the document in NoSQL, especially for MongoDB. Okay, we saw that if you remember the SQL, you have to create the table or DDL, that is well-defined schema. But here, you don't have schema defined. Mean What does mean by that? So if you look at this, the first record, so it has got ID, it got name, it got age, whatever. It could be more columns. But look at here, ID2, name, age. Don't think it's a null, because we work in SQL. It's not null. Even the column is not there. It means one record, or the very first record, got ID as a column, name other columns, age as other column, but the second record has ID and name column. It doesn't have age as a column. So even number third, if you look at here, see, there is no name. It got an age and then other column, but though this record doesn't make any sense because it could be valid record, there's no name, but just the age. But I mean, the point here is like it can be like this. So you may not have the column, one of the column defined in the one record, and the other column is not like other attribute is not there at all. So that is actually how the schema is in NoSQL. So it's no defined schema. And when it's come to the relationship, what you see on the left side is the relationship. If we build it, like how we build in SQL, if we build a similar in NoSQL, then it could be like this. Means, look at this, my favorite actor, Tom Hanks. So user ID, name, and the age. And think about the very similar example we saw in SQL. Then you got a profession, developer, engineer, actor. And to translate that, you need to have this breeze table to say, okay, user ID, then profession ID 1. So it means user ID 1 is Tom Hanks, the profession ID 1 means that one, which is developer. And the second record is same, user ID 1, which is Tom Hanks, profession ID 2 is data engineer, is 3 is the same way. So yeah, Tom Hanks is here, is a developer, data engineer, actor, all. But now look at the right side, how simple it is in NoSQL. In NoSQL, this is something called embedded object. Means we see Tom Hanks in the user table, which is the information here, user information here, name, age, email address, and the profession we actually embedded here as a developer, data engineer, actor. I'm sorry, just have to get some water. If you have any question, you can ask. Have any confusion or any question? If not, then I'll go further. So as I say, so what happening is here as a profession is embedded here inside your user table. That's how it is in the NoSQL. It doesn't recur actually many tables. It doesn't recur the relationship need to be maintained like how do in SQL. You put the embedded object. We will see in the demo that it's not only one object you can embed. You can embed actually, more object and one underneath other like that. Well, I put some link for you if you would like to start with, MongoDB. So I'm gonna share this PPT with Jane, so Jane can share with you. That's the reason I just put it here. So it will be helpful if you just start looking into MongoDB. Okay, when it's come to language, especially for MongoDB, you have many options. You don't have to really be an SQL developer to start with MongoDB. You can, as you see, there's all sort of languages supported. So if you're from C# background or Python, you can start and working with MongoDB. Okay, now this is our demo time. Okay, Gene, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch my screen because the screen I'm showing is a big screen. I have seen earlier when I was presenting that big screen is look very smaller since this tool, Robo 3 tool. So let me switch my screen. I can screen 1. I think that's the one. Yeah. Now it will be easier. You can see it. So as you see, like robot 3D is our tool, and this connection is here. We can look at, you can disconnect and connect it again. See, and what you're gonna do is first we're gonna create database. I'm just looking for my syntax. So we're gonna open shell. Look at here. This is just a bit different than how you do, how we create database, especially in MongoDB. So we don't have this cloud data driven as the database name here. So as soon as I put this use, and it will see, okay, if that is there, if not there, the database is not there, it's gonna create the database. So I'm gonna create the database, also create that table as a sample, you know. So now we go there, refresh it, you should be able to see that database. And as I said, you know, it's called collection instead of table. See, this collection, under the collection, you see that documents. As soon as you click it, you see the in the documents, like, you know, ID, name, and the price, because that's what you have created, right? ID, name, and price. One interesting thing also you see here, you know, underscore ID, which is like, you know, system generated column by MongoDB, but you can still replace that as soon as you put as a, you know, here ID underscore like this. Sorry, yeah, like this. Then you can have your own ID how you want it, or how you want it actually. What you're gonna do is now we're gonna go through our interesting Tom Hanks example. So let's create this one, this table. And I think you pretty much can follow it, right? I'm not going to say you get ID, you get name, and the age, email address, and you see this how you're creating the table. And this one actually, the insert one means it's gonna insert the one record in that table. And as soon as you go view document, you're gonna see, oh, sorry, I need to refresh that. Table collection. Yeah, that's the one user, right? See, now we got Tom Hanks information. Now we do that embedded one, you know, we talked about. So pretty much same till this part. So ID, name, email address. Now we get the profession embedded here. So see, developer, data engineer, actor. As soon as I hit execution button, it's inserted. They just need to go and see the video commands, and you see. Now how we see in the MongoDB. So it got this general information, like user information. Underneath that, the embedded object profession. You see the developer, data engineer. That's how it looks, you know, when you go and see or explore any embedded table. As I said, you know, we're gonna also look at more, one more example with not only embedded, but one embedded object, rather more embedded object, for example, or it's a collection. So for example, this part is the same. Also, you saw the profession. Now look at this. So it got cars, and inside the car, you also got attributes, which is make, year, and the color. And look at the other one, which is interesting, where you got the make, year, and you don't have the color. As if you remember that, it doesn't have to have this well-defined schema. It could come anything. So it means this one, the make, the car attributes, the color is missing. Let's see how it shows if we execute that. Okay, see, profession you saw earlier. Now inside the cars, and then you gotta make here on the color, And the second one, there is no color, make and year. So, we can do one update statement, right? Because we're just seeing everything very simple query how to do in NoSQL, but you can do a lot of things actually in MongoDB or NoSQL database. That's like making relationship, making query, whatever. If you want, there's a lot of things you can do. The link I shared, that's the starting point, and you can go more further. So what we're doing here, what we're doing is like we would like to update the user. So if you remember how we're going to do in SQL, like you have to say, okay, I would like to update this record, right? So that's the one where we are specifying. Okay, we are specifying Tom Hanks. We'd like to get a record where there's a name as the Tom Hanks, and we're going to set that record is to 30 and email updating to something else. Now it is to tashollywood.com, whatever, but we're going to replace that yahoo.com. And it's going to also show you when it's last modified. So let's do it. See that has been changed, 30. And also email address have been changed. And the last modified time is showing here. I don't know, I think this is central time, or this is not EST for sure. Yeah, that's so far with our NoSQL demo. Let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Okay, sorry, I may have to switch back to the other monitor because it's screen share. Okay. We have seen the demo. Now let's look at the differences. Difference. I think you all belong that difference is in SQL. So you have to have the schema, well-defined schema. Where in NoSQL, you really don't need that. So as you said, also as you see, I put that schema agnostic means that you don't in NoSQL you don't have to have the schema, but think about if you know that, okay, you can okay, this is my column name, I know in advance, then you define that schema. That's better because what you can do, and in the real-time scenario when you're working in a project, that's a bit different. I mean, you know the capabilities, so you use that wisely. It means when okay, I know the schema in advance, then I build the schema, and when I don't know it, then I don't build it. That's it. And the relationship, in SQL, you have to have the relationship. There is no other way. And in NoSQL, you don't need to build the relationship. In the same way, still you can design relationship you want. And as you see, data distributed in multiple tables, and here in one table is embedded. And also, when it's come to this JSON, the table in NoSQL is a JSON, lightweight, and it's a language independent, and it's a more human readable. That's the reason JSON become more popular. It's kind of standard for data interchange and storage. So let's go to the next steps, where now you got your NoSQL database, right? Or the table we created. And then our next task for us is to, okay, we have that table and we'd like to move to the Azure Data Lake storage. How are we gonna do it? That's the part we're gonna see and go through it. And we also have the demo. Before we go there, bit of theory, because what is Azure Data Lake? because we said we'd like to move that to Data Lake, right? The table we just created. So Data Lake is it's Microsoft PaaS service big data solution, and it's a scalable data storage and HDFS, head of compliance file system, and also since an Azure and Microsoft product is well integrated with Active Directory. And we also talk about ADF, right? We use ADF to get that file or the table and move to Data Lake. So what is ADF? ADF is like a short version of Azure Data Factory, which is ETL or ELT tool, whatever. It's a code-free. It has nice interface. You can drag and drop. Also, there is a code version. If you would like to write the code, you can do the same way. Or you could use that version as well. And Azure, it's in Azure Cloud. It can do a lot more things, many more things than only ETL or ELT. To have our demo, because we are going forward for the next demo to the next one, so we need to have something before the demo. So even if you'd like to try at home, so what you need to have is, of course, the Azure account, and then your Azure Data Factory resource need to be created to, play with Azure Data Factory. Then what you also need is link services and integration runtime. Now, all these words are, if you're not familiar with it, then it's kind of overwhelming at the first point. You can think of, okay, what is integration runtime? What is link service? I can draw that a bit so it become more clear. So integration runtime, just give you a bit of background. What is it? Integration runtime. Think about when you're working, because now the one we created, the database NoSQL, it is in my local PC. So it's a private local environment. It could be also the private network in other vendor you are using it. Maybe it's not in as long as it's not in Azure, then it's the private network, right? So it is integration runtime is supporting. It's a compute infrastructure to communicate between the private network and the public network and Azure itself, and when through the different resources it can communicate. So it's a communication compute they call integration runtime. It has three different type of integration runtime. One is self-hosted integration runtime, which is like, for example, if your database or data or files in your local environment, not in Azure, then you have to use self-hosted integration runtime. But if your files are in a database in Azure, then you have to use just integration runtime. And the third one is, I believe you are familiar with SSIs. Like SSIs is also other ETL tool to extract, transform, and load the data. And when you use that, you can also use in the cloud in Azure, and that case you need to have that third integration runtime, that SSIs for SSIs. And the link services is nothing but connection history. So let's, before the demo, as I said, I think taking Paint and would like to explain a bit, so become easier. So for example, whatever we have or created is MongoDB, right? And what we're planning to do is we're going to move to ADLS, which is Azure Data Lake Services. And what we're using for to move the data or the table or whatever, it is ADF, right? File or object, whatever you call, you can move that through the ADF. Now, another thing we said about integration runtime, right? So think about, it's called SIR, which is self-hosted integration runtime. And then what you need is link services, and then the data set. Those are the three things you need to create it before you can actually move the data. So the first things I already mentioned, self-hosted integration runtime, if you have the database or file system in the local or private network. So think about, whatever you'll do in here, right? Azure Data Factory in the portal. So you'll come to the portal, and how portal will know, okay, what is my database? So that is the first thing. What is my source? Not the database, rather the source. So it will say, okay, this is how they communicate. This is with the self-hosted integration runtime. And then say, okay, then now know, okay, you are in the private network, but what you would like to connect with? Is it a database? Is it a file? Whatever. So if it's the database, then you have to establish that link services, which is nothing but connection string, as I said. And the next object is, what are you going to move? Is it a one table? Or if you have a one single query to say, okay, select this table and that table, and together we want interested to move that part. So that is the data set. So eventually you can actually move only that things to the cloud or ADLS, but you need these three things even to move that. In the same way, you need here integration runtime, because this is in Azure. And then you also need link services here, and also the data set. Because think about, this is on the left side, whatever we have designed here. This is your source, and this is your target on the right side. And you both, like, you're connecting the both from portal. In that case, you need to have the self-hosted integration runtime, local link services, data set for the source as well as for the target. Because as I said, ADLS is different resource under the Azure Data Factory. Under the Azure portal. So though you're using this portal, but you're connecting to your source, and then when you're working with this ADF, you may have to do any kind of transformation, whatever. Then you're going to move to Data Lake services, which is a different resource in Azure Data Factory. So again, I said Azure Data Factory in Azure. So it means you need to have also these three things here for to move that file. You need to have that. Let's go and start the demo then. Okay. How we go it? We go to the portal and see we have the resource group created. So this is our resource for Azure Data Factory, say Data Factory version 2. What you need to do is you click author and monitor. Just close that other one. And then on the left side, you see the author. There is a pipeline I've already created earlier. See, what I have done is a copy data. And so what you're going to do is it's going to connect to the source. Now I can, I'll create a completely new pipeline to show how to do it. But eventually we're going to run this one to move the file. But just to explain better, I'm going to create a new pipeline. But here, see, is the source, which is connected to the data set, and the sink, which is the connect to the data set. So, and that is like eventual component data set. But let's create one pipeline. So we do that, create a pipeline, set pipeline, MongoDB, and then, oh, sorry, it's the same name, cloud data driven. Now what you need to have is a copy activity. So we can have copy activity here, and see, as soon as I put the copy activity, the source and sink we have to give the source and sink. So what you have to give is the fastest source data set, it's saying. And you will see like how data sync is eventually linked to the self-hosted integration runtime. This is also interesting here is Azure Data Factory support or have the connector to connect with the MongoDB NoSQL. So if you see here is so many connector here, you know, all Azure, Cassandra, DB2, Dynamics, FTP, it's so many connector here you can connect with. So what we are interested is MongoDB, right? Let's collect, you know, as soon as you click it.
Are you there?
Yeah. Hello?
Okay. No, it was quiet from my end.
Oh, wow. Okay. Please let me know because I was speaking. If we have anyone you don't hear me, please let me know. Is it good now? Everything? Okay. So I see that as a, you know, see, look at this is data set. As I say, it's the first or the like last component is a kind of data set that you would like to move. And then what you expect is the link service. So yeah, I have already this one. Since you know, I have already created one, it has chosen, it has already taken this MongoDB2 collection. Now see, this is your data set. Now you have to say what is your link service, right? So link service, you need to create that link service. You see already create, I have already created earlier. Now if you click the new, you're able to create it. So I would say link service, MongoDB, whatever. And now, if you remember, we talked about the integration runtime here. You need to select our integration runtime, which is self-hosted integration runtime. So if I click here, you see there is an Azure integration runtime, then the self-hosted integration runtime. You need to choose that because we are connecting to the private network or my local PC. And then you create it, whatever you give name, and it's gonna get automatically. So I'm not just gonna create that, close it. What you have to do is you have to put now in the link service is your connection string. Means your how do you make the connection. So you'll have that local host IP, and then you also have to have the database name. I'm not doing it because it's already created for this one. See, I can go there and show you. So see, this is my link service, and the link service, and you know, self-hosted integration runtime is there, and C collection name product is already there because it has been created earlier. So we saw the source, how we're gonna connect, and connecting through MongoDB connector, and then link service, datasets, whatever. Now we go to sync. It's the same way. So if I click that, see, this is sync dataset. We call it a sync dataset for the target. Click it. What you would like to move it now is our Azure Data Lake, right? So if you look here, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So I select it. Then it's going to say, okay, what type of format you would like to choose. We know that our MongoDB is a JSON format, right? So we can choose the JSON, continue. And now here, you need to choose the link services. See, I have already created that link services, you know, that one. I can choose that, but if you think you want to create it here, what you need to choose. Earlier, if you remember, when you were connecting, we have chosen self-hosted integration runtime, but here you can choose, you know, as you resolve integration runtime, or if you go here, you just choose this one, Azure, that one, yeah. I'm canceling that, and then you know you can say, okay, how we're going to connect. So for example, now you have to say, okay, where you'd like to specifically put that file, right? So you're connecting through the connection string. As soon as you connect it, then you can choose this from, you know, your subscription, and you can say, okay, this is my account, and I'm gonna put my file over there. It's nothing but your storage, is Data Lake storage, and you can also test it. if the test is successful or not. So it looks good. And also I'd like to show you where we'd like to move that file, like Lake storage. So if you go to the portal, and this is our storage account, if you look at here, and look at this, this is container. And in the container, you see, well, I think I ran it in my last presentation, so I'm gonna delete that. So this is we expect to have, means we expect it to have a product table or JSON file should move here. Shows in the script changes. That is our pipeline. So hope you understand this, how it is. So source and sync, source is connecting to your source in local PC, and sync is where it's moving. Now we're going to run it, how to run it. So you can also validate if there is an issue, it's going to show you, it's no issue there. Now we can just hit this, debug. Hope it will work, especially when it's presentation comes. Sometimes it just doesn't work, but every other time it works. So hopefully it will work. Okay, started, in progress. Okay, very good, success. If you click it, you see on this, see whatever I click is kind of glass icon. As soon as you click, you can see actually it's read from MongoDB 1 on 4 bytes, and it's moved to Azure Data Lake storage. When it started, how long it took, like 8 seconds. Yeah. Now we go, and we expect to have this file here, right? We need to refresh it. Okay, you got it. So this is the right time, EST time, and you go here and edit and see what do you expect to see. Yeah, CD by 300, because this one is not the Tom Hanks example data I have moved here, because see, database name is different. So since I created earlier, this one is more about this one, TestDB, and see the collection. Sorry, here. That's the record. City bike 300, ID 1. We can go and see city bike 300. Yeah. So that's how we end our demo. Yes, very important things here. When you're gonna try this one in Azure Data Factory, remember, the connector you have used is supported version 3.4 MongoDB, and you also have the documentation for it. Okay, well, it's kind of an end of our session. So what we learned about SQL versus NoSQL. We did some MongoDB and demo. We learned the small, simple queries. And we also learned there is a MongoDB connector in ADF, and we also saw the pipeline, how to do it end to end. We also learned different kind of things you require, including integration runtime, link services, dataset, or several things. Yeah, that's it. If you have any question, please feel free and ask me.
Yes, let me put everyone. Let me give everyone access to unmute themselves if I haven't done that already. Give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
To be honest with you, it is a great session.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
You guys do have access to unmute yourself, and then feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Diponkar.
Hello, my name is Ray Parada. First of all, thank you so much. This was very enlightening and eye-opening. First question was that there are field attributes that I noticed that you were using. is there case sensitivity? Let's say there was username with uppercase, camel case versus lowercase. What would happen with the objects? Thinking that this would never happen. You have two developers working two different groups, naming fields differently. When you create that object, will you have two field instances now with different values, or would they be merged?
Well, if when it's come to your case sensitivity question, yes, I mean, it's a JSON, so it's a JSON standard, everything. So even the example I have shown you, for example, when I'm, inserting the record, then, for example, you have the ID and name, whatever. And if you have a ID as a small letter or a capital letter, actually it will treat that as a different column. Even I think it's also work like in SQL. Think about it will not understand if there's an ID as a capital or a small. So yeah.
Okay, so
you need to be a bit careful.
So we do have to watch out for that. So the next question, I have two more, and I apologize
Sure.
for taking everything up. Merging of records. So we inserted more than one Tom Hanks record. Bear with
All right.
me. So will records, when you insert it, if you're not specifying the key or that ID field, will those records ever be merged? Would you have to run a process to merge those records, or could you theoretically accidentally have a conflagration of data?
No, you're right there, because think about the example. It is just simple example, right? If I would like to update with that name, it's gonna, same name is there, so it's gonna, update for the same Tom Hanks, many times if it's there. So it's gonna work like how it's even work in SQL, the very same way. Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that question. And then the last one, I swear to you, I'll leave you alone.
All right.
Database views. Now I'm incredibly comfortable in SQL Server. We use a lot of views to materialize the data that we're looking at. So within your database object, I presume that you create these views that have sort of the pre-canned queries. Think like customer data. You want it to automatically be set up. How would you access those nested objects? Is there?
It's a very good question, honestly, Ray. It's a very, very good question. Even I would say that I'm not expert in that domain. I'm actually main expert in SQL, but I know your answer. That's a good answer. So there is think about it's a JSON file. So you have that language or syntax to go to exactly that point. If it is nested, say for example, you'd like to, actually we're working, so I'm working in ADA, but we have a JSON file, and then we have to go and pinpoint that record and find out that, So there is a syntax, the link I have shared. You'll find out how we're gonna go and find out that record. And then you have that option for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you again. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful time for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for a nice question.
Go ahead, guys.
Anyone?
Ray, would you mind to ask your question?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I saw your use case where you were trying to load the data from MongoDB to Data Lake, right? Gen 2. I wanted to know, did you, in your case, it was a table to a table, right? A collection to collection, right?
Yeah.
Is
It's
that
right?
Collection to collection, okay. So we also have Cosmos DB, right? So why did you choose not Cosmos DB when Microsoft had made the API, the MongoDB API, to work with Cosmos DB?
Yeah, very, very good. Sorry, what's the name you said? May?
Yeah, Mudassar.
Mudassar. Yeah, very good question. I mean, this one is for this session, especially, for example, when people already have their NoSQL database residing in local server or private network, and for them, they would like to move those database or tables or any object to the cloud. And that's the reason, even the connector I mentioned, you see that the older version, far older version, it's for 3.4, right? So because I think MongoDB already have like 4.1 or 2, so it's a bit like earlier version. The reason for it is for the migration purposes. And you said exactly right, because if you start right now, you don't gonna do this way. It's more about one use case is how we're gonna do it, but you're gonna go and jump and use from Azure Cosmos DB for sure. Also, there is other tools I mentioned. You can choose any one from them, other vendor. Yeah, definitely.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions?
Hi, it's Ray again. I do have one other question. It may be inappropriate to ask this question for this group, but is there a form of replication of data from MongoDB to another instance? I'm thinking SQL Server replication. If you're not familiar, we have the ability that after a while, we could have the server replicate the data to another database for fault tolerance and the high availability. Mm-hmm. How would that be implemented within the MongoDB environment within Azure? Is there a component to migrate that data over? What would be your guidance or documentation that you could forward us to?
Yeah, I'm not really sorry. I don't know the 100% right answer for that, but yeah, I can find out that for you and share that link probably. I'll just take a note. I really don't know that answer.
Okay, and I'm gonna be digging around on myself because I'm new to this side. I'm familiar with there's another product, as you mentioned. There's a lot of non-SQL, NoSQL databases, and there's an XDR product that actually does cross data center replication. So I'm interested in see how that's implemented here for this use case. So again, any guidance would be great.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Meaning, Ray, you want live replication from MongoDB to SQL Server, correct?
It would be Mongo to Mongo necessarily, because right now the way that I'm looking at it is that we use different cloud services depending on what the customer needs are. Think about ERP system, exporting data set up so that way you could do reporting for customer sites, and we give the customers their own playgrounds to do whatever it is that they need to do. That data is normalized or denormalized, I should say, so that way they have the ability to do the reporting the way that they need. I was looking at different type of NoSQL systems to basically be able to provide that information. Now, you have customers in different locations globally, and you have one major data center in, let's say, here in the States, but we have to distribute that data out to Asia Pac or South America or to Europe, looking at the models that are in use by other folks, just to follow other practices. That's what I'm really trying to gain here and see if we could do that easily with this.
Right, but the thing is, if it's gonna be MongoDB to MongoDB, I would highly suggest you to go with a replica set and then dedicate it a group of instances. You understand, for your reporting purposes. But remember, there might be a lag. You understand, yes. But that will not hurt you. If I were you, that's the way I would go.
Replica sets, okay. Yeah. Again, I'm very new to this side of the MongoDB world. I don't play here. I look at the other players. So, I'm looking for guidance. I'll check that out.
And then MongoDB have a great class. Give you a great class, MongoDB University. I mean, you can go there and learn as much as you can. But for your question, I think replica set would be your best solutions, because you don't need any other tools that to do the replication because MongoDB have features that can maintain that.
That is
And
great.
then if you worry too much, I would highly suggest you to have Azure Cosmos DB. And then the thing is, if you are a SQL guy, you don't need to learn anything. You can use the SQL API. And then the thing is, with Cosmos, with Azure Cosmos DB, you don't really have to worry about most of the configuration that I'm saying, because if you are using MongoDB, you will need your own data center, unless if you use the version online, from their own cloud platform, right? But if you are not a NoSQL guy, I would not suggest you to go there because there's a learning curve. Because first of all, you mentioned things about views, right? So that's related to data. For example, normalization. You will need to know how to normalize RDBMS into NoSQL, and you have to understand the difference, between them. And then this might take time to get those knowledge. So I would highly suggest you to think of Azure Cosmos DB.
Yeah, the difficulty here is that we have many legacy systems and we are in a hybrid environment. So we've got some, I won't mention the other cloud player, but it sounds like Amazon, and we have databases there. We have some in Azure. We have some with Google, and some with other private clouds and customer side. So we're trying to migrate in a way where we don't feel as much pain, and getting there has been the challenge. So that's why we're looking at all these different technologies.
Right. So, and then, sometimes when you centralize everything, it's way better and everything have it,
I am so there with you.
Yes, right. But anyway, good questions, Ray. I more. Shine, would you please unmute yourself? Hello? Okay, so
Can
it
you hear
seems
me?
like, yeah. Yes, I can hear you now. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, this was I think the first session for me to know what NoSQL is compared to SQL, because I am specifically working as a SQL database administrator. So two questions. I would like to be it short from my side. First is whether we need to have VPN connection to connect Azure Data Factory to on-premises server.
No, actually, first correct your answer. The answer will be no. So that's the reason, if you remember that there is a self-hosted integration runtime. So for example, it could be your machine, any private network that need to configure first. As soon as you do it, then it's, they can communicate. It means, Azure portal and your private network or local PC. Yeah.
Okay. I'll keep it remember. Thank you. And second question is about Robo3T that you use to connect to the MongoDB. So is this the freeware tool available that I can install, and whether this is the only tool or if there are any alternatives for it?
No, this is free, and this is not the only tool. Also, there is, MongoDB Compass, they call it. You can use that one as well. And Robo3T is actually the old one, it's still people using it. Easy to start. When I started, it's become easy to follow. It's very similar structure when you work with the SSMS, that's the reason I preferred that one. But
yeah.
the document I have, this slide, you will have that link, also the name of those, so you can find those.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
You are very welcome. Do we have any other one? I think it's still Ray. Ray just spoke. So I think we are all set. Thank you all for your participation, and thank you so much, Diponkar. That was an amazing session. Yeah, I learned so much from it. And thank you for putting everything together. One more time, thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Bye. I will share the recorded video to all of you. Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Well and safe all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul.